In this video, we're going to look at types, variables, and values in Java. First, I want you to take a moment to pause the video and see if you can come up with a short one-sentence description of what a type is, and a short one-sentence description of what a variable is. I'll give you 5 seconds to pause the video, starting now. Ready? Let's see how Horstman would describe these. A type defines a set of values and the operations that can be carried out on those values. So a type involves both data or values and operations. A variable is simply a name for a value that you want to use at a later time. In Java, there are two major categories of types: primitive types and reference types. Primitive types refer directly to simple values, while reference types refer to objects. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, can you come up with 3 primitive types in Java and 3 reference types in Java? 5 seconds starting now. Okay. It turns out that there are a total of 8 primitive types in Java: integers, short integers, long integers, floats, doubles, booleans, bytes, and characters, as you see here. Everything that's not a primitive type is a reference type. A class defines a reference type. When you create a class, you create a type. That means all of those 4,000 classes in the Java Standard Library are all reference types. Note that there's another categorization when it comes to reference types. That distinction is between immutable types, types whose object values cannot change, and mutable types, types whose object values can change. The distinction between immutable types and mutable types is a very important one, and we will go into detail about it in the next lesson. Let's look at some variable declarations in Java. In a variable declaration, the type comes first. The type name is followed by the variable name. That's really all you need for a variable declaration in Java. But if you want to assign a value to the variable, and in general, it's always considered good programming practice to initialize your local variables when you declare them. If you want to assign a value to a variable, you do that by adding an equal sign and then some expression on the right-hand side of the equal sign. For example, here the Boolean variable found is initialized to false. The integer count is initialized to 2. The float width is initialized to 13.5, and the string greeting is initialized to hello world. Here are some incorrect variable declarations. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, can you go through each of these declarations and tell me why they are incorrect? 5 seconds starting from now. Okay, let's go through them one by one. First, a value of 0 cannot be assigned to a Boolean variable. Boolean variables can only have a value of true or false. Second, numeric literals cannot contain commas in Java. If you want to assign 100,000 to the variable count, leave out the comma. Third, the 1/2 notation is not a valid number. If you want to assign 3.5 to width, then you should write 3.5. Fourth, the variable height is not declared. So this would be a valid assignment statement, but it's not a valid declaration. Fifth, you're trying to assign a string here to an integer. You can't do that in Java. They're different types. Sixth, you can't have a variable name that starts with a number in Java. And finally, you can't use a keyword as a variable name in Java. The word public is a keyword in Java. Now let's look at assignment in Java. Suppose that width, height, and area are local variables of type int. In this code, they're all initialized to 0 at the time they are declared. After the declaration, we assign 40 to width, and then we assign the value in width to height, and then we assign the result of the expression width times height to area. Can you tell me what the final value of area is if I give you 5 seconds starting from now? The final value of area is 40 times 40, or 1600. Now let's look at an incorrect assignment. In this code, the variables width, height, and area are declared, but they're not initialized. And the assignments below have been modified a bit. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, can you tell me what's wrong with this code? In fact, I'll tell you that this Java code will cause a compile time error. Can you tell me where the error occurs? And if you're really feeling smart, can you tell me what the error message is? 5 seconds starting from now. The error here is at the line height equals width. This will give you a compile time error that says the variable width may not have been initialized. That's because Java requires you to initialize your variables before you use them. In other words, assign a value to your variables before you try to use them in an expression, or before you use them on the right-hand side of an assignment. Note that Java does not automatically assign a default value to local variables. However, Java will automatically assign a default value to instance variables. Well, let's clarify this. Let's look at this car class to see some different kinds of variables. Instance variables, also called fields, represent the data within each individual object. MPG and miles are instance variables in this class. You may instantiate instance variables when you declare them, or you can instantiate them in the constructor. In this class, they're instantiated in the constructor. If you don't instantiate an instance variable at all, Java actually will give it a default value. But it's good practice to instantiate them explicitly. Local variables are local to a method or operation. The local variable gallons is local to the method gas money spent. It does not exist outside of this method. You must instantiate local variables before you use them, or Java will give you the error message we saw in the previous slide. Some people refer to parameters or arguments as special kinds of local variables because they're local to the method or constructor as well. I prefer to just call them parameters. The parameters in this class are mpg_arg in the car constructor, trip distance in the takeTrip method, and price per gallon in the gas money spent method. We'll talk more about the different parts of a class in the next video. I'll see you there.